The January 6th meeting of the Abingdon Town Council. I'm sorry, Mr. Morani wasn't here and I didn't realize it.
I'm here.
We didn't miss him at all. I want to welcome you all to the January 6th meeting of the Abingdon Town Council. I appreciate you attending. We all appreciate you participating in government. Thank you for your attendance. Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bradley.
Here.
Ms. Quetch.
Here.
Mr. Webb.
Here.
Ms. Patterson.
Here.
And Mayor Craig.
Here. Mr. Bradley will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next item on our agenda is public comments. When you come to the podium to give your comments, will you please state your name, your address, and do the best you can to restrict your comments to 3 minutes. You can tell by the lights here what's happening. So, the first speaker is Mr. Elmore.
Hello, can y'all hear me? My name's Link Elmore. I live at 520 Court Street. And I'm here representing a local nonprofit, the Abingdon Cycling, Inc., that works to promote safe biking and mountain bike racing and the positive impact that cycling can have on our local economy. And I want to explain, if you heard this sound this weekend, what that was all about. And here to say a word of thanks to the town staff for making it possible, for their work to put together the Winter Cross bike race out at the town-owned land adjacent to the small business incubator. It was a big success. We had folks coming from, I talked to folks I know from as far away as Winston-Salem who came to town for this. There were, I think, upwards of around 60 entries. And for a first year event, this was a big success, especially in the dead of winter after a holiday. So I think we owe ourselves and our staff a big thank you for that, and I wanted to give it. So several months ago, we became aware that the local race promoter over in Johnson City, 423 Cycling, was looking for a new place to host a race, and we made them aware and showed them this area over at Stone Mill, and they agreed that it would be a fantastic venue. And we got in contact with the special events and the rec department at the town, and they were immediately positive on it. And I just can't tell you how much it means as a citizen when you go to your government and they find your officials and they look for a way to say yes to something. And that really speaks well of our town and our administration. I want to say thanks for that. So it all culminated here this past weekend with 2 days out in the wet and the cold, riding bicycles. And I know that may not sound like fun to everybody, but it's fun to a bunch of crazy cyclists. We had a good time. And we know this is a multi-year project to build this audience and this event. And the promoters seemed like they were interested in doing it all over again, and maybe there'll be opportunities for a warm weather event. That'd be nice too. So maybe we'll bring them back again, Highlands Festival or something warm weather like that. But this was a team effort, and the police department, Chief Sullivan, and REC with Kevin Worley and Jane During and Sarah Saavedra, everybody worked together for this. So we just want to say thanks. We appreciate it.
I want to say thanks to you for letting us know that the staff did something right. So
Oh, well,
it's
they
not
often
usual
do.
that we hear that. So
Well,
from the public anyway.
well,
Thank you.
very good.
Thank
Good for
you.
all of us to hear. Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
The next speaker is Anita Manuel.
So I'm Anita Manuel, and I live at 320 Madison Street Southeast. And I am a resident of the town, and I'm also on the Sustain Abingdon Committee, but I'm not here speaking for the committee. I'm here speaking just for myself. So one thing I wanted to do is to bring greetings in the new year for the new year and the new decade. because I think a lot is going to go on during this decade, and we don't usually hear about it in the news. The news just seems to be filled up with everything that's awful, terrible, and a real mess. So there are places I go to find out about what is going on that's good and that's hopeful, and I'm actually really encouraged by what I'm seeing. So I'm reading about and hearing about all the people that are getting together to face the big problems that we have now. And they are doing beautiful things to make things better for people, but especially to create the natural wealth that lives in our home. And I put home with a capital H. The one we all have together, our living, breathing earth, God's creation, which needs some emergency room attention right now because we've been stressing her out and taking more than we give back. So some people talk about sustainability, just like we do on the committee, and it's good work, but maybe not quite enough now. So I want to use that word regenerativity that I'm seeing more and more. And regeneration is not just about using too much up, it's actually fixing the damage that's been done. So when the patient goes to the emergency room, the doctors don't just say, better be a little more careful. They go to work to clean out wounds and put on bandages, maybe put a cast on or do surgery, give something to get a fever down, a few days of rest, or weeks or months of rest if the damage is really bad. So I want to actually thank all of you for being here and also for how well you've been working together. And I want to encourage you to think big. A lot of the time we believe we don't have time for anything but the details. One little thing at a time. But I believe this message of hope says that we need to think about the big picture, how each of the little things fits into this much bigger living picture, how all the smaller things relate to each other in the living picture to create a truly welcoming home. So let's make this next 10 years a beautiful regeneration of this place we call home here in Abingdon.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Billy Fullen.
Billy E. Fullen. I reside at 855 Wolf Creek Trail, right here in Abingdon, Virginia. Say Happy New Year to each and every one of the councilmen and the mayor. My reason I'm speaking here this evening is my concern about the insufficient lighting right out front, especially in front of the Barter Theater. I was told, and I don't know where it's true or not, but they had another pedestrian be hit last week or so. Don't know whether it's true. But when I come through at night, I almost come to a complete stop and just in my vehicle crawl because it's just not enough lighting. I know you want to keep everything like you have it historical, but these lights that you have in front of the Barter Theater, it's just not sufficient for the motoring public. I believe as a previous meeting, as I stated, the pedestrians have no regard for us that is driving a vehicle from 2,000 pound to 30,000 pound, as if we can stop on a dime. And then especially as we get older, I wear glasses, and then when cataracts begin to appear, we don't see as well, especially with insufficient lighting. So would you all please, I don't know where y'all talk about it, not in your meeting, but address this. When people come from across the street, or sometimes they come out of the Barter and they just walk straight on, just assuming when that sign is there, yield to pedestrians, that takes care of everything. I've got to have a reaction time. and I'm assuming other people do too. So would y'all please consider us, the motoring public? I'm sure all of you all drive. I seen Miss Patterson come in. I don't. She may have walked all the way from home, but I do most of mine by vehicle. Thank you.
Mr. Pullen, if you'll stick around, I believe Mr. Morani's gonna give a report on the crosswalk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, you all came in later. Did you want to speak? Okay. That concludes our public comments.
They got nothing better to do on a Monday night.
That's a great date.
Okay, council, approval of minutes, we'll do them together if there are no corrections or.
Mayor, I have a couple of corrections.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Mayor.
I believe, it says 188 up here, December 2nd, 2019 regular meeting. And the paragraph starts out, Mr. Bradley, hope that everyone had a good Thanksgiving. In my presentation of what I did as council report, it said Ms. Patterson also stated that she was honored to service as the master of ceremony. It should say serve as the master of ceremony.
Okay,
And also on page number,
okay, that's the December the 2nd meeting?
yes, sir, December 2nd. And then December 19th, the page number says 193, work session. And also under H, reports from council and staff. Basically, to summarize what my council report was, after you pass the first two sentences, after Christiansburg, Virginia, it says regarding a recycling program, but it's regarding getting a recycling program back to Abingdon.
You got that, Kim?
Yes, sir.
Okay, since we've got corrections to both of them, let's take them one at a time.
Okay. I'll make a motion that with the corrections that we approve the meeting on December the 2nd, regular meeting minutes.
So, motion by Ms. Patterson to approve the December 2nd as corrected.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bradley. Any discussion? Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
Mayor Craig.
Aye. Okay, we got to approve the December 9th.
And I'll just make that second motion too, if that's okay with the council. December the 19th, I make a motion that we approve the minutes with the correction that I gave earlier for the work session, December 19th minutes.
Motion by Ms. Patterson to approve the December the 19th work session minutes as corrected.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Webb. Any discussion? Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
Mayor Craig.
Aye. Next item is proclamations, and I don't have anything to proclaim tonight. Next item is resolution, and I resolved everything with my wife, so we're all right there. The next item on the agenda is petitions, public hearings, and first reading of ordinances. Resolution for submission of proposed changes to the Town of Abingdon Charter. Mr. Morani.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is technically a resolution, but we put it under the public hearing section since public hearing. So as we discussed at the December work session, we made some modifications based on comments from the council. There were some verbiage changes that we made, but for the most part, the substance remains the same. And I guess we got to still open the public hearing then, right? So we'll have the mayor do that. Okay.
I get the charter changes have been on our website. I'll declare the public hearing open. Anyone who wishes to speak on the proposed charter changes, please come forward and state your name and address, please. Nobody wants to speak on the charter changes.
I can read it if you want me to.
I don't think that's necessary since it's on our website. Does any of the council want the charter, This read, you were.
I don't see a reason to read all that.
I was joking. I want to make their
You
date
was
night
kidding?
longer. I wanted to make their date night
We'd
longer.
have these people bored to tears.
It's about
It makes
four,
it hard to run a meeting when you got people up here kidding. This is serious business, you know that?
it's about 4 1/4 pages long, so we
is it?
wouldn't, yeah.
All right,
I'll be glad to give my copy to anybody who wants to see it.
all right, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Council, what's your pleasure? On the resolution.
Mayor, I move that we adopt the resolution of the council for the town of Abington in support of an act to amend and reenact Part 1 Charter, Chapters 1 through 7.
Motion by Ms. Patterson to approve the resolution for the charter changes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bradley. Any discussion? Let's see, has Kim got a problem? You have-
No, we were just going through some ordinance.
Okay. Kim, call a roll, please.
Mr. Bradley?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
And Mayor Craig?
Aye. Second readings of proposed ordinances. Second reading of ordinance regarding adoption of Town of Abington Code, Chapter 4, appointed officers, boards and commissions. Mr. Morani.
Yes, this is just an ordinance that we've reviewed the last couple of meetings, just a second reading. This is just cleaning up some language regarding the town manager's appointment authority. So it's consistent with the resolution adopted by the council, I think last year, or the year before. Yeah, last year.
Okay, council, what's your pleasure on the ordinance to adopt changes to Town of Abington Code, Chapter 4?
I move we approve it.
Motion by Mr. Bradley to approve the changes in the ordinance.
I second that.
Second by Mr. Webb. Any discussion?
I just want clarity, please, your mayor,
Sure.
if I could, on, I've got two pages of this corrected and not corrected. I just wanna make sure that it's a 4-year term on section 54-27, terms of office of members on the advisory commission instead of 3.
We're not doing on that one yet.
Oh, we're doing the first one. We're doing the
Town manager.
section, or chapter 4. I think you're on the next one.
Okay.
Yeah. I know.
I'm sorry, I
That's
get
okay.
ahead of myself
Yeah.
at times.
That's all right. Are you all right with this?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
All right, all right. Any other discussion? Council, Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
And Mayor Craig?
The next item is the second reading of ordinance to repeal, amend, and reenact Part 2 of the Code, Chapter 54, Parks and Recreation, Article 2, Advisory Commission. Mr. Morani.
Yes, this is the, this already's been through a first reading, obviously. This was to clear up the terms. This is what you were probably gonna ask, Cindy. Okay, why don't you go ahead and ask your question then?
I just.
Well, I
want-
think just to clarify,
Okay.
Yeah,
Cindy, if
go
I
ahead.
could, if you look at the ordinance, the way the code reads, we're supposed to state the specific items that are being amended as they are first, and then now therefore it be ordained is, the red line is the corrected one. So it's
I
been
got
on the
that.
4 years, it's 4 years now.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah, so it says
Thank
4, it's going from 3 to 4 years, and then there was language in there about expiring annually, and that's being removed, so.
That's great.
Okay. Council, what's your pleasure on the change of the ordinance?
I'd move that we adopt the ordinance to repeal, amend, and reenact Part 2 of the Parks and Rec, Article 2.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Webb to adopt the ordinance, the changes in the ordinance. Second by Ms. Patterson, Vice Mayor Patterson. Any discussion? Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
Mayor Craig?
Aye. The next item on the agenda is second reading of ordinance to repeal, amend, and reenact Part 2, the Code, Chapter 2, Administration,
Okay,
Article 3, go ahead.
yeah, I think I might have confused things. When I read that, when I stated that first one was for the appointed offices. That was not for the, it's been through second reading, so we're on autopilot now.
All right, now what I need to do.
So no, you don't have to do anything, but when I explained what the first ordinance was, that was the one that we were taking care of, the appointed offices. We were putting in new language about the requirements for serving and how having uniformity between, and I read that it was the one amending the section on the town manager, so I apologize.
Because of the advisory, I was correct on that
You
one.
were, ro-
I was correct.
well, you
Because
were
that
asking
was-
about the chapter
Yeah,
54.
but number 2, it says right here, advisory
Yes,
commission.
for
Okay.
the record, I made a mistake, and I read the wrong ordinance, and I want to go on the record saying that I'm consistent with Mayor Craig's earlier comment that mistakes are made by staff.
I'm glad it was
On a
you.
regular basis.
And not me. I'm glad it was you.
Okay.
I couldn't figure out why she put it in the packet the wrong way until I
All I
realized
know
that
is
I
I
was
read the packet, and they're all right with me.
I did not make
That's
She
what
didn't
I-
make a mistake.
All right, so we're dealing with the second reading
Yeah.
of ordinance to repeal, amend, and reenact Part 2 Code of the Code, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 3. What's your pleasure, council?
Yeah, I think that, I'm sorry. Ms. Patterson had pointed this out, and we can do this one of two ways, that we were only addressing section 2-126. But she noticed that section 2-129 says that the council, we eliminated the charter provision of council appointing fire department officers, but there's a separate ordinance that says the same thing. We can either, under the charter, make that change to eliminate or amend section 2-129, and that will in effect be the first reading of this amendment, and we can take it up next time, or we can adopt, or you can adopt the second reading of what we've already done, and we can just start over with section 129.
Could you please, for the public record, note that and, verbally what we're what, is it the fire department you're speaking about?
Yes, section
Okay.
2-129 says currently at the first meeting in July following each councilmanic election or as soon thereafter as practicable, the council shall appoint fire department officers as provided in Code of Virginia, section 27-13. And the charter, until just now, or until we.
Well, it's still technically not, until the legislature adopts it,
Right.
it's still technically
Right.
not law.
Correct.
But we're gonna change that, right? This is what this meeting's all about.
Yeah, right. So, since this is the second reading of this particular ordinance that we're addressing right now, section 2, either if you amend what has already been the first reading at the second reading, then that shall be treated as the first reading, and we'll have the first reading today and have the second reading of it as amended next meeting, or
Let's just
Six
start
half
all
dozen
over
others.
again, it'd be a lot easier.
I think so too,
so
because
adopt what is the second reading, and then we can amend this other
Yeah.
we'll
section.
have to amend it, yeah.
Lawyers
That
always
sounds
gonna
a
make
lot
so
simpler.
lawyers gonna make things so confusing.
Okay.
So
Explain
what we got
everybody's
here is
options.
what we got here is a conflict between the new charter and this,
Yeah.
and this.
And the ordinance.
Ordinance about the fire department officers, and we're changing the.
Just to be consistent with the
We're
new.
gonna go back and change our ordinance to reflect what the new charter will say,
Right.
when the charter.
And what the new charter
We'll be
should
sure everybody
say.
understands what we're doing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Bell, would you please tell the public what it should say?
With the charter just eliminates that provision altogether, is what you've just resolved to do.
We're changing, the charter, we have already acted on the charter. The charter is correct, all we're amending now is the Town of Abington Code to make it consistent with the charter that we have just approved. I believe that's right, is it not?
Well, the only part of the ordinance that is in the second reading is 2-126 involving the town manager. The fire department is 2-129, which isn't part of the second reading at the moment.
So you're saying we either have to go ahead and pass the second reading,
Right.
even though there's a part of the code that is wrong? and we can.
Yeah, we can just clean it up,
We can clean that up
because we
later.
referenced that we're only amending section 2.126 in the
Correct.
ordinance. So there's perfectly nothing wrong with just adopting this.
So
He was just
adopt it how
saying,
it is,
for
and then we'll
expediency
change it later.
purposes,
Okay.
we could treat, by vocalizing or
Yeah.
mentioning that change, we could treat that as the first reading, but I think the intent of the council is just to have it come back as a first reading and second reading, which is fine. Which the new section, we will formulate the new language. It'll essentially read, the town manager, the town manager shall appoint the fire chief.
Right.
So that will be consistent with the new.
So is everybody quite confused yet?
Hold on just a minute. I think the only thing that we need to do is to table item 3 or just not act on item 3 and start all over with item 3 again? Is that what we need to do?
I think you should
Yeah,
pass,
And
I
do
think you
both
should,
things.
Why do we
let's
need
fix
to
it.
pass it?
Well, because right now you're only amending section 2.126, which is reflective of the position of the town
And we've
manager.
already had our first reading. This is our second
We
reading.
can just start all over with the first reading and do the thing over again would be the easiest thing to do, in my opinion.
well, I
But
think,
since we're all
Well, that's
confused, I'm totally confused.
I think there's more expediency to amend the second reading because it addresses the
Okay, will
resolution
you-
of the town
Will
manager
you state
managing
how
the
we
town.
need to,
I think
change
someone
it?
who needs to move that you approve the second reading of the ordinance as presented. Just forget that comment existed in the first place and do what we.
Yeah,
did.
we're just,
Tonight,
what we're doing with
just
Denise,
forget.
we're gonna clean this up at the next meeting,
He's gonna clean
we're
it
gonna
up at the-
approve something that is not right.
No,
it's on
here.
126
is on here.
It's just the 126 that we're approving
We're
right now.
amending this section 2-126-2, which it only addresses the town manager being in charge of the town. So I think that should be passed today,
Okay.
and then we can clean up the fire department
All
officers,
right.
which doesn't come into play until July in any event.
Okay.
And this is inconsistent with what you've already passed. So-
Okay,
Okay.
so we just need to pass item 3 then.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Can I ask one more question? At what time can I state we need to change something on 2-127? I know we gotta pass this first, so just one little word.
Cancel Manic.
Number 4, his,
I knew she was gonna say here.
authenticate by his signature.
So that could
Town
be done
clerk can
the
be a
second.
man or a woman.
We can take up that entire section if you want. If you want me to go through the whole code and make pronoun changes, then we can do all that at once.
I read all this, that's the only thing I could find, Cam.
Okay, then we can do that the next time along with the fire department.
Okay,
thing,
so
if
then
there's-
just wait till the next meeting. Okay,
We'll go
that's
through
fine.
first reading, yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's good.
All right. So having said on that, I'd make a motion, since we've spent enough time on it.
Good
If you dare.
Yeah, I know, right? To go ahead and amend and react Part 2 Code, Chapter 2, Article 3, specifically Section 2-126 only.
And I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Webb to approve the second reading of the ordinance to repeal, amend, and reenact Part 2, Chapter 2, Administration. Second by Ms. Patterson. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Kim, call roll, please. Thank you.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch. Aye. Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
Mayor Craig.
Aye. Next item on the agenda is consideration of bids, authorization to award contract to Hydro Structures for on-call engineering services. Mr. Dew.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm here tonight to talk about adding to the current contracts that we have secured for various on-call engineering and architectural services. Over the last 4 months, I think we've had secured contracts in different aspects of engineering, general civil engineering, transportation, and wastewater treatment and collection. And we previously, as the town, secured contracts with 2 firms for wastewater treatment collection, CHA and Mattern and Craig. And you may recall, I presented not too long ago about the results of an I&I study that CHA did and identified quite a few areas that we need to address over a time period to help with our collections and treatment system. Given that amount of work that we had ahead of us, we considered that we probably need to add this third firm, Hydrostructures, to help with the workload and be able to spread it out to where we can get some consistent and efficient consulting work. So I'm here tonight to ask if you would consider authorizing the town manager to enter into competitive negotiation with that aforementioned company, Hydrostructures, to be added to our list of wastewater treatment and collection on-call consultants. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Any questions, council? Pretty clear to me.
Okay.
Council, what's your pleasure?
I move we approve Hydrostructures.
I think it was Mr. Webb.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Bradley to approve the town manager entering into competitive negotiations with Hydrostructures for wastewater services, second by Mr. Webb. Any discussion? Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
Mayor Crick.
Abstain.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next item on the agenda is reports from the town manager and the staff, consideration of financing IT equipment, software.
I think we got the authorization to award Dovetail. Dovetail, is that what you all have?
Yeah.
It's our
Jason.
I don't
Jason,
have that, I don't have it.
Jason
Yes, I mean-
Boswell,
We amended it this morning.
yeah.
Like the-
It's right here in
Oh,
our
I've got
memo.
an old agenda then.
Yeah, you're working off the one
Okay.
from the notes.
It's
All right.
this one.
Where is it?
It's right here.
Let me read it. I'll be able-
Well, it's just that little bit, authorization for Dovetail, but this is what explains it right here, Mayor.
Okay.
Okay.
Authorization of award to Dovetail of a contract. Mr. Boswell?
He's not here. I told him not to come.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Just since this was pretty easy, I believe I can handle this. Well qualified. What this is, council, this is a contract for historic work to be performed. Essentially, it consists of performing surveys of the structures through the historic district, the old one and the expanded one, or the original district and the expanded district. I guess there's not been one done, or if not, it's been 30 or 40 years, I don't know. And this was a grant, part of this is being funded through a grant that was, that Tanya Triplett had submitted. And so half of the funds of the $26,000 will be from a grant awarded by DHR, which has already been approved and we've accepted. So this is just selecting the contractor, and I will enter into agreement with the contractor. And the firms have been ranked by staff, and this is who they're recommending. So, firms out of Fredericksburg.
Okay, this is just like a engineering.
Similar, yeah.
Okay.
They survey all the structures within.
Yeah, there's gonna be,
Within both historic districts.
all the structures.
chunk.
And Jason told me they're gonna be doing some outreach to residents to let them know, I guess in the coming months, there might be some people walking around there.
Best of my knowledge, this hadn't been done since 1970.
Okay.
And we've added several sections to the old historic district plus the newer historic district, and
Yeah.
they all need to be redone.
Yeah.
I have a question, Jimmy. There was discussion sometime back, and I don't remember who with, but of extending the limits of the survey to some structures on Bradley Street. Is that included?
No, that's not included in this. This is specifically for the survey of the existing and proposed.
So you all decided not to?
No, not that we haven't decided not to, but this
Okay.
wouldn't be encompassed in
Okay.
that work. Yeah.
Okay.
It would be a separate
Just
contract.
wanted to understand what's
Yeah.
going on. Okay. All right, council, what's your pleasure?
I move we authorize the town manager to engage the services of Dovetail.
I second that.
Motion by Mr. Bradley to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract with Dovetail, second by Ms. Patterson. Any discussion? Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
And Mayor Craig?
Aye. Okay. Then that does consideration of bids. Reports from the town manager. We'll take Mr. Bailey at this time.
Pass these down if everybody wants to get a copy of it. Mayor Craig, members of council, I'm standing before you tonight to ask you to give authorization to Mr. Morani to ask Mr. Banner to go out for leasing options for equipment for the IT department. This equipment that I am asking you to finance tonight was in a cycle to be replaced next budget year. As a result of an increase in storage in our network, we have run out of time sooner than we originally anticipated. And so our storage devices, our virtual machines are rapidly filling up. And so over the last couple of months, CJ McLaughlin and I have been working with vendors, talking to Nutanix, looking for our best solutions. And then ultimately, when we saw the handwriting on the wall that we were going to have to go ahead and make a move, we've been able to chisel what would have been about over a $200,000 investment down to about $150,000. So we have worked very hard to get our pricing structure down to where we feel that it is more than reasonable. What I'm asking you to do is to authorize Mr. Banner to go out for lease rates, or to utilize some that we've already received, whichever is best. And what we're going to do is replace equipment that would have come up in the next budget year as expired and renewals. I've given you information relating it. I'm glad to answer any questions regarding it. For your information, we currently have about 18 terabytes of storage for our data, and what we're actually going to be doing is increasing that to almost 64 terabytes. So with this investment, we're going to almost quadruple our storage capacity for the time to come. Basically, the reason for that is simply sign of the times. We're putting a lot more data into permanent storage as required by law, and as is reasonably useful to the town of Abingdon going forward. So as you could probably notice around Town Hall, there's a whole lot fewer filing cabinets anymore. They're all in my machines, and we just have to keep finding space to store this information. So I'll be glad to answer any questions or explore this however you'd like to.
So I guess my first question would be, what happens if we don't do it?
Okay, if you don't do it, we're currently like on the teetering edge of failure. And what happens in our storage systems is if our node runs over its threshold, it will crash. And when it crashes, the other nodes are supposed to pick it up, but they can't pick it up because it's got too much data. And so ultimately, we have a failure and we lose our data.
So you lose your backup, basically.
Yeah, the purpose of what we're doing really fails. The method of recovery is
You lose everything or just anything?
I think it would only take the portion that it could hold, and then it would lose everything else potentially.
Well, okay, so the way storage works, basically, you could potentially lose everything. But it would be expensive to figure out what you didn't lose. Truthfully.
So there's no chronological whatever?
Well, we have backups, and of course, we store stuff into the cloud. So here's the point. Would we lose all of our data? No, we would lose all of our data in its current environment. because we do have Axient, which stores everything up into a cloud in 2 other cities on 2 ends of the United States. So if everything crashed and the world came to an end, I would say, okay, now what we got to do is spend $210,000, pull everything back up into place, and then download everything back down into our system. So ultimately, you stay on top of this stuff so that you don't have to act in that emergency circumstance, and that's the goal.
Just quickly, my second question, I guess, was quickly perusing through, I saw some things in here that said 5 years. Is that what you expect the life of this
Yes,
upgrade to be, 5 years?
that's correct.
And I did ask him earlier, last week, I said, well, the last one was supposed to last 5 years, so. Okay.
Yes.
So I asked him, but, you know,
How
we don't.
close did we get, 4.5 years?
Yes, we got almost 4 years.
Okay.
We didn't get 4.5. We got almost 4 years. And, you know, a lot of that was, this is, we don't have a magic ball. We do our best based on what our current expectations, and as things change, and everybody says, you know, in the technology world, 3 years is your magic. 3 years from now, I'll tell you if we're gonna make it 5 years. But best I can tell you is I fully expect, based on quadrupling our storage, we ought to be able to make it 5 years.
And
my
just, I'm sorry, I was gonna,
Go ahead.
because somebody asked it, this is not gonna have an increased effect to the budget, because you
Right.
didn't mention that, but I wanted to make sure everybody's aware, since we're leasing it, we're still able to spread out the payments.
Everything.
We have funds in the budget to do that, we're just accelerating that.
I have currently budgeted enough to maintenance this lease through the end of this budget year. So all we need to do is just approve them to carry the lease. We got the money already budgeted to pay the lease. We'll budget for the remainder
I see
years.
dollar signs walking up here.
Yeah.
So my
On the
question,
budget issue, I did really want to clarify something. You will have to increase the budget, but it'll be purchased and you have a revenue and expense on the same side. So there will be.
Yeah, there'll be a technical change to the
Yeah,
budget, but as far as the funds being
because
available.
you've got to have that expense to go against your revenue that you're receiving with the loan. So you've got to pay for the entire thing at one time, and then you spread those payments out back to the bank over a 5-year period. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
From a procurement, is this cooperative or through the state IT, or how are we doing?
Yeah, all of this is on state pricing.
So usually the IT stuff's on state contract.
Yeah, every bit of this.
I
is
didn't
state.
understand it, Chuck. This doesn't have to go out to bid, or?
If it's under state contract, you can go off.
Oh, it's under
off
state
of
contract.
Purchasing contract, you can get it, but as far as the financing and stuff, I just need permission. to go
What
out.
Chuck was referring to, like on paper, the revenue's gonna show as a revenue source, and the expense has gotta show, so on paper, from a cash flow perspective, we're not increasing
You know,
the budget, but on paper.
Proportionally, you gotta have the expense equal to
Yeah.
revenues, and revenues is whatever the cost of it is.
so my question is this. Okay, so you've got, and I know you do your homework, I just want the public to know this. When you decide on a company to help you with our software, do you typically stay with this company, or you shop around? That's what I'm thinking you do. You shop around for the best money you can buy and get it as cheap as you possibly can.
Right.
But my question is this, any upgrades, have you, because they can take your arms and your legs and your firstborn children, et cetera, when you do upgrades. So
Yeah.
when you investigated and all this and did your research, is this a good company to go with that you won't have to give your arms and legs and
Right.
everything else to?
I understand what you're saying, yes. Basically, everything that's contained in this is in these quote sheets. And all of it's priced through CDWG, which is a government contract agent that holds state contract bidding. The software, the Nutanix hardware and software platform is what we're currently using. A lot of the equipment that's associated with this, like VMware software and other Cisco products that go along with this upgrade, are what we're currently using. And so, and there are upgrades to what we're currently using. We're not technically replacing anything, we're upgrading everything.
This is an upgrade.
Right, it's an upgrade. So we're taking what we've already spent good money on, and the town spent good money on it, and we are improving it to go with us down the line, which is what we fully expected to be able to do. We just hoped we would be doing this next year instead of this year.
And just so everybody aware, the firm that we usually get quotations from software like this, CDWG, the G stands for government. All of these prices are usually GSA and state contracts. Sometimes GSA is better than state, depends on the, but usually the state contracts are better.
That's correct.
On some of them. So.
Very, very true.
Okay, Jimmy or Floyd, any more questions of Floyd, council?
Well, I would just ask, is it something that we need to decide on tonight?
I would say yes, and for this simple reason. Like I said, over the last 2 months, we have been hammering these companies to get their prices down. So they have put timelines on their pricing. One segment of it expires on the 31st of this month. Another is expiring on the 17th. All I need is an approval from you guys for them to hold and lock everything in. So it's a matter of not only serious importance from an IT standpoint that we go ahead and move forward, but it's also important because of the negotiations that we've engaged in trying to get these prices down.
So have we got them lower than this
We
negotiated state
did,
contracts?
yes, we have.
Okay.
We've saved $60,000 off of what their original pricing was, which is,
How did you get them to do
me,
that? Just-
well, we just do a lot of talking.
You're not gonna
and
give your secrets?
shell game.
Okay.
But you don't show all your cards, you know. They don't know how serious it is that we need this right
And correct me if I'm
now.
wrong, Floyd,
They
some of
will
this
now.
Yeah.
was included in the capital
Yes.
improvement plan, so
Yes.
that will be revised
Yes.
slightly.
It'll be bumped up.
But
And
it'll-
we'll just show what the real expense over the next 3 to 5 years will be associated with this lease in our capital improvement plan.
So instead of doing this July, we're just doing it in.
We're just doing it now and.
And to answer your question, Ms. Quetch, I would recommend we do it now. I don't wanna take any chances.
Let me ask a question. Donna, if you're not comfortable with this, can we let her review it and do it at the work session, Jimmy?
Oh, if you guys wanna act, well, it's on this, I was on the timeline that Floyd established. If you're comfortable taking action at the work session, that's
I mean, we
fine.
were just given this tonight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's $150,000.
right.
So,
No, I mean, the only thing I can tell you is, when is your meeting?
The 19th.
19th or 22nd.
Oh, no, wait a minute. The
22nd.
19th, yeah, the 22nd, the 19th is in February.
I mean, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call these people and say, look, you know, you're just gonna have to hang on with me as far as the pricing is concerned. You know, the ball is in their court with that regard. The issue that I have is time is of the essence. I'm more than happy to hold on at your leisure, but, I honestly,
I don't think it's in our leisure, Floyd. I think it's, the issue is that we just received this tonight.
yeah,
And,
which I understand that. Believe me, I
that's
do
the
understand
issue.
that.
We haven't had a chance
So,
to look at it.
I guess, considering the timeline here, I mean, in your opinion, is there any way we're gonna save money if we wait?
No. It could potentially cost us money, but there's no way we're gonna get this price any better.
And ultimately, we don't really have a choice. We have to do this.
You have to do this.
But we've got until the 31st before any prices move, correct?
Yes, you have technically, the 26th is what, I'd have to go through and look at all of these dates. I mean, some of them actually have said, you know, the 31st of December, but they're hanging with me, and so I'm still talking them
I
off the
saw the
ledge.
31st
The
of
quote-
December in there.
The quote
Um,
date is the 4th of November on one and the 18th of
Those
November.
were when they originally quoted them. Those were original dates, not the actual quote, not the actual price, but nonetheless, I don't wanna put undue pressure on you,
Do it.
but I want you to understand that the reason why I'm standing here today and not 6 months from now is because this became an increasing issue and pressure in my
The question,
network.
Floyd, is whether, is whether it's okay for us. We're willing to do what's necessary. We understand all of what you said. The question is,
Well, I
Donna,
mean,
one council member, or at least one, is not comfortable acting tonight.
Well-
Is it okay, will it satisfy you if we wait until the work session on the 22nd?
I don't think 2 weeks is gonna make any difference.
yeah, that's what he just pointed out, so.
Like I
let's-
say-
Let's just do it.
I think I'd rather be proactive than reactive
Yeah,
in
let's
this
just do it.
particular situation.
And like I said, please ask me any questions. I'll stand here as long as you want me to.
I mean, what we have now, Floyd, is a proprietary system.
Floyd, it's a matter of,
Yeah.
we might want to think about something a little
No,
bit.
I understand. I do. I really do. And I'm sorry that I feel
That's okay. It's
like
no
I'm
problem.
putting pressure on you. But I do feel it's pretty serious for us to recognize that our data stores are constantly screaming at me that they're out of room. I get reports every single night, and that I deal with those, and I have been
Are you saying
patient.
that you have an emergency that we need to act on or not? Which way
Yes.
is it? You want us?
I would prefer that you act on it tonight if you can. And because I don't want to come to you next week and say, oh, I'm sorry, you know, I've been listening to those alarms, but I let you slide for 2 weeks and now we've crashed. I can't tell you what tomorrow holds. I can just tell you that I'm here today because
Okay.
it's an emergency.
He feels like he's got an emergency.
Yeah, I say let's move
Okay.
on.
Let's pull the trigger.
Okay. All right. Council, what's your pleasure?
I move we authorize the town manager to, seek loans and whatever he has to do to.
What do you?
Yeah, just
Forward this.
to secure leasing, working with the finance director to secure leasing to pay for the upgrades.
Okay. All right, motion by Mr. Bradley. You got it, Kim? You got the motion, Kim?
Yes, sir.
I second that.
Second by Mr. Webb. Any discussion?
I have one question. Do you recall, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, if you don't have it tonight, you can get it later. Do you know how much money that we spent on this almost 4 years ago?
Yeah, it was almost about the same. It was around 150,000.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Kim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bradley?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
And Mayor Craig?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Floyd.
Thank you.
Okay, the next report, Mr. Morani, I promised.
Yes.
Report on the crosswalk.
So just so everybody's aware, with the holidays and everything, and people were back in the swing of things, I did send some communication out, but have not formally made any kind of comments at a public meeting, since we hadn't had one, first meeting of the month, when I usually discuss these things. But the Barter Crosswalk, over the last, I would say, month and a half, or it's been almost about 6 weeks, I think. Has it been 6 weeks? Oh, yeah. I've had discussions with, obviously talking to Barter, but primarily with Chief Sullivan and John Dew, since he came on board, about some modifications we could do at the crosswalk area in Barter. And if you might have noticed, there's a few things that have been done already. We're trying to just do it. Some things, they may or may not make a difference, we don't know, but one thing that I'd received comments from a couple individuals was the vegetation could be, seemed as a distraction. We just wanted to remove it, just if that was anything that could be potentially an issue, then we determined that that was the best course of action. That was one thing that we've done. We are going to replant some low growth vegetation. I think one of them's still, still there, or did we take it all out?
Still some flowers.
There's still, or there was gonna be some flowers. Oh, actually, there is some flowers there, I think, still, is what Kevin said. So just so they're not, maybe as a visual obstacle, they're not there as high. But also, you might have noticed the white stripes that are on either side of the crosswalk. That was done. We had a very good weather day last week, and our crew was able to get out there, I think on Friday, and do that. Unless it was the week before, I can't remember. It was the week before. And so we are planning on putting the next thing, probably would be the reflective tapes. Reflective tape on the pedestrian posts, the signs with the post. There's some, is it tape?
Basically tape.
Yeah.
Tape on there, reflectorized.
Just to draw attention to the actual sign. Sometimes you see them on warning signs or speed limit signs in certain areas, but this just is another visual enhancement to the sign. And then two things that will probably happen, actually, the last main item that has to be planned, which we're in the beginning stages, is we are going to put there's a street light on the Martha side of the street, of Main Street, on, I guess it would be the west side of it, just directly on the other side of that crosswalk. We're going to put another light there as well. So there will be one on each side of the crosswalk. There's some electrical work that has to be done, subsurface or surface electrical work down. And then we actually have the post.
We do have the sign post.
We have the sign.
We have to install a foundation for the pole.
John, come to the.
Yeah, why don't you come here, come here and explain what has to be done with that, and that way we'll know. We have to schedule the AEP.
Excuse me.
so, yeah.
For the new light installation, we have to dig down about 4 feet and put in a foundation for the pole. Along with that, we have to put conduit in there for the wiring for the pole. We have the pole already. When we do get to the point where we're finished with the foundation, AEP actually installs the poles and the fixtures. So we're coordinating with them when we get to that point.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
schedule permitting and weather permitting, that.
We're hoping to get started on the
Yeah.
foundation as early as next week. Yeah. And that's that we had to locate the utilities in the area and find the existing electric line that we're going to stub off of.
We are looking at some other lighting options. We're trying to do our due diligence to make sure that what we do, and we need to talk to I need to circle back and talk to Barter again about another idea. But it's just, there's a lot of moving parts in this, but what we're just trying to do, we're making our best effort to just try to enhance the visibility. I mean, just so everybody knows, we are confident that we feel that there is enough lighting per a transportation standard, engineering standard, but doesn't mean it won't hurt to illuminate it more. So we're just to the point we don't want it to be a distraction to motorists or pedestrians, and so we'll just make sure that we're not going to hit that threshold to make sure that we're within the standards, transportation standards. But we're just making these decisions very carefully. I just want everybody to know that. So, okay.
I'm good, but I wanted to say something if I could.
Well,
You
Cindy,
good? Okay.
go ahead and say
I just wanted to say that we all have been concerned about this as a council. I know I'm just speaking for myself, but I'm sure that everybody here sitting on this dais is concerned about this situation. We've all been proactive. I personally have driven many times across that crosswalk and looked. I wanted to visual it. I wanted to be there. I wanted to see what it was like. I will say one night I went out, it was about 11 minutes after 9, and I observed 2 people coming out of the Barter Theater that night. They were wearing dark clothes. It was a man and a lady, and they came across the crosswalk without touching the crosswalk button. My suggestion, one of the suggestions, and I'm really into meetings, so if anybody wants to meet with me and Mr. Moraney or whoever, how we can do this from the Barter, I would suggest an announcement in the Barter Theater during the play, right before the play or after the play, probably before, to remind your patrons to please press the button crosswalk, or have one of your employees out there and have them press the button before the customers exit into the crosswalk itself. But there's all kinds of things that I know that's happening and that's been told to me as well, and I'd be happy to discuss that. And I've been talking to the manager about this and Mr. Craig, so I'm really happy to help in any way that I possibly can, because we don't want to see anything happen to anyone. But those are some proactive things that you all could take note of, and I appreciate it if you'd.
To add on to that, Ms. Patterson, I had some discussions with Jane today, and for the January jams, they intend to have one of their ushers come out and press the button proactively as people are coming across. Because I firmly believe that if that button is pressed, it exponentially reduces the likelihood that there's going to be an accident or an incident. So we're trying to work with Barter to to do that.
And I really hope that folks will slow down in that area, because that is a big problem. I mean, in my opinion, it is. I know that I come through there, and I'm almost at a crawl too, Mr. Fullen. I come through there at a crawl. I very highly respect that crossing and all this busyness out here. It's getting busier and busier. We're growing. So we all have to take note of the speed limits and even go under. I mean, it's, we're busy people. We don't want to run over anybody. So that being said, thank you.
Somebody also said it was because they felt like the pole was black, that it needed to, it's in the dark. You don't really see even the.
Oh, you're talking about the light?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we have
They were
actually,
gonna
that's
put
another thing that we're
tape.
looking at.
Okay, good.
Is making it yellow.
Reflective
Yeah,
tape.
you're talking about the post that holds
Right,
the
the
button, yeah.
post, yeah.
We're also
Yeah, they
looking at
just
that as well,
talked about that.
possibly painting it, and we even talked about putting the button itself has to be, it's kind of low, and so, but with it, for ADA purposes, it has to be a certain height, but it doesn't mean we couldn't also, in addition to painting it, we've talked about maybe putting a little sign above it.
Yeah, a sign
Just so
will
it's not,
work.
but it's not too tall, so we're exploring those options.
This may be a dumb thing to say, but is there any kind of hardware out there that would allow that thing to be motion censored?
You
Oh,
can do
yeah.
that.
I mean, if it could shield it to where every car didn't make it go off driving by,
Be a challenge.
That's a
I'm
good
just
idea.
curious.
Let me stick on.
Your thought.
Come on up.
Drones.
Maybe a nightmare.
Hi, I'm Jackie Blevins. I work for Barter Theater, and we've had a lot of conversations about this as well, and thank you so much for everything that everyone's doing. We are going to assign ushers. We have so many, and I think there are a lot of them that would be very happy to stand out there and make sure that that gets pressed. And we're talking about a lot of other different things we can do. We do the curtain speech every night, and I think that's some place that we may remind people to be very careful. The one person that was hit was one of our ushers that was leaving very late at night, and was an older gentleman that just forgot to press that. And I think it's something that we're also talking to our ushers about, that they should remember to press that before they cross, especially late at night. So I think the lighting's going to help a lot as well. So I just wanted to.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Great ideas.
Thank you.
Anything else, Jimmy?
Not this time, Mayor.
As I understand it, we're going to replace all of the lights along the wall. We push the button, we're gonna put new lights in.
Yeah, some are new, but just since there's a lag time on those, there's several weeks of lag time. We decided even for the ones that are still lit, there's 2 lights in each one of those pods, and so if you see one that might be a little bit more dimmer than the other, it's because one of the 2 has gone out. But we are replacing all of them. But there's a few that are not, that are still fully functional, that are, we'll have those extras if we need to in the event that one of them goes dim again, since there is that much of a lead time. And they're rather expensive, but I think it's important, we talked about having them on hand. Yeah.
Okay, the other thing I want to make sure that I'm clear on is that we've got, this is not related to the Barter Theater. We've got January jams coming up, and we've got the sessions coming up. I understand that the town is gonna have someone there to make sure the button's pushed.
Well, we feel, working with Barter, Mayor, that we feel that we're gonna be able to be successful.
Oh, you're working with
Yeah,
Barter on that?
to get
Okay.
that.
But anyway, the
Yeah.
idea is we
Yeah.
have somebody to help them.
Right.
Until we get the lighting in place. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, anything else, Jimmy?
No, sir.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is old business, matters not on the agenda. Is anything not on the agenda that we need to take up? Okay. Council member reports. We'll start with Mr. Bradley. If he wants to make one, then we'll come this way.
Happy New Year.
Same to you, Al. Mr. Bradley wishes us all a happy New Year, Donna, so
Okay.
you can go ahead.
Well, for my report, I'd like to give a summary of our Finance Committee. The Finance Committee has held 3 monthly meetings this quarter with the adoption of the bylaws and a selection of the chairperson. The committee agreed that it should act as a liaison to council and assist with the initial budget process in hopes that it will be, in hopes that it will be a flawless presentation to the entire council, with the treasurer presenting a report to council quarterly. General discussions have included delinquent collection efforts, annual budget process, a form regarding non-departmental budget requests, and we went over the auditor's comments for the budget audit in 2019-20. And also add that Stephanie Davis with Virginia Tech will present information regarding the preparation of the amended capital improvement plan on January 22nd, 2020.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you and Derek for all your good work, and the staff as well. Vice Mayor Patterson,
Yes, I was just looking at my calendar, sir. Thank you. Okay, so it's been a busy month in December. I've attended a lot of all the council meetings that I was supposed to. We had a FOIA training before one of our council meetings, and I attended that as well as other council members. I think all of us were present during that. Also, there were several events that I've gone to for the month of December. Christmas parade, Christmas tree lighting, and I think the fire department had a dinner too that I was invited to. I couldn't go to the academy for the police officers that were, I think, graduating because I had to work. I'm sorry I couldn't attend that, but I'll be glad for another invitation. I'll try to make it. The other thing I'm still working on and working hard at is trying to get recycling back to Abingdon. I spent quite a bit of time on the phone today with a company in Roanoke, speaking to them about some things and options, and I'm actually went over a little bit, well, I'm going over that with Mr. Morani here in the next little bit, I think next week. And, this week, okay. Oh, yeah, it is this week, isn't it? It comes up soon. Well, anyway, it's coming up soon, and I just really want to get recycling back to Abingdon again. I feel it's very important and necessary. And in regards to Miss Manuel's comment about, helping the earth, I think it's important to recycle. I think we all need to take it serious. I think we need to look at home first, and then we need to look at the United States. In my opinion, I don't know that we need to look at other countries. I think we should do our homework here and take care of our own here and do the things that we need to do to keep recycling at its best. Can I?
Ms. Manuel, I'll allow you to speak if you have something.
Yeah, just one thing, and because this is something that we're very much talking about on the Sustain Abingdon Committee. And we're actually having the Earth Day this year, the theme be recycling. And so if you're doing this, I'm thinking there should be maybe some more coordination than I've seen so far.
Well, Mr. Craig also talked to me about Sustain Abingdon as well. I'm just
Okay.
trying to get the details right now and get
Right.
everything, all the details. I'm a real detailed person.
Right.
And so when I get all the details, then we can kind of bring other people in.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you.
Anita.
I think that I had, what else did I have in here? Was there anything else?
Well, Cindy, that's enough.
Is that
I'm
enough?
impressed
Oh,
already.
the other thing I do is I talk to citizens about their needs and wants in Abingdon, so I've been doing that as well.
Well, you didn't talk to me.
What's your phone number?
All right. Is that all, Cindy?
That's all, yeah.
Derek?
After you.
No, the mayor goes last.
I can give you an update on the mayor this week, the last week.
Yeah, we don't want to hear it.
You're right. Not to be a broken record, I've attended many of the dinners and meetings and things already expressed. Finance committee's going great. Did have a rec advisory commission meeting, and we're excited to we've been having monthly meetings there just to sort of get on track with the sports complex progress, and I hope we'll have a little more information come later this month with regard to engineering services and so on and so forth. So we're excited. Pleasure to serve.
Good. Mr. Miranda wants to report for me. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, see, Friday, I spent an hour and a half with the mayor, but he did buy me lunch. So I call that an even trade.
But I called him a lot of names, and they were bad names, too. We can't repeat it.
I did forget to get my allergy shots because of that too. I want to go on the record.
All right, that completes the report.
I'm okay.
Next item on the agenda is appointments to boards and committees. we have an appointment to make on the Tourism Advisory Committee. I understand from the council members that we can make that an open session and not in closed session. So, council, what's your pleasure on the appointment to the Tourism Advisory Committee?
Mayor Craig, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Daniel McNally to the board to replace the unexpired term of Kalon Roberts, who is unable to serve the appointed term.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Ms. Patterson to appoint Daniel McNeely to the Tourism Advisory Committee, second by Mr. Webb. Any discussion? Kim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bradley?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
Mayor Craig?
Aye. Okay, council, that's all that's on the agenda. Anything else anybody needs to bring up? Or- Okay, then I declare this meeting adjourned.